Well, you see, in the beginning, there was nobody that actually read music. Everything was by rote. That's why, again, the rehearsals could go for 16 hours, because it was like you would go over and over again until you memorized it, and then we would go through. So it was very tedious, and that's why, again, I had to keep taking notes and making sure that I've got to remember my part. And then again, the next day he would change that part and I'd have to whatever. But in the beginning, that's just the way it is. Everybody during the rehearsal had to memorize that part, and we would go over and over and over. So, I mean, a little tedious, but it was understandable, because again, you can't expect to a certain degree, rock and roll musicians being able to read and do all these things that, for the most part, if somebody was coming out of, college, or had been well versed in a lot of fundamentals of music, it still would have been difficult, but it would have been a little easier transition. I think that was the easiest part, because on certain days Frank would just turn his back on the audience and start, like a rehearsal with the band. And something that really kind of blew me away, the people in the audience being abused like that loved it. It's like it went against all your logical thing. Well, you're going to go play a concert and you're going to, do all these things. And, Frank would just light up a cigarette and start going over something that we had been playing in rehearsal. I guess the more he abused the audience, the more our reputation spread. For the most part, it was enjoyable, but he did that a lot. And I think this thing of, there is so much spontaneity in improvisation that we could take off on something and play that the next day, and it would be different, because you're not going to play, the same thing. And I think Frank enjoyed that. And I think he also enjoyed some aspects of jazz, because, that's one of the main focuses, is improvisation in jazz. I mean, it's been in classical music too, variation one, variation two, whatever. But that was also, I think, a facet that intrigued Frank. Well, it just started out with a few. If I do this, you do this, and if I do this, and it just like, it's been so long now, but he also had verbal commands. But between the hand signals and the commands, sometimes that took up as much of the concert as the musical part did. And again, I think that just from being different than another band, that really kind of amazed audiences, that we could be playing Stravinsky for a couple of minutes and then go into some outrageously ridiculous, antics on the stage, with guys humping each other and following Frank's hand and doing certain things. And then he would have you walk up to the mic and whatever you want to do, that kind of thing. There was a lot of freedom in that area that I had never seen in a band before. And I kind of wondered why people liked this kind of weirdness, but obviously they did.